So this week is a sneak peek into my upcoming online workshop that is pre-recorded lessons, so you can do them at your own pace and on your own time frame, and that is called Mixed Media Airmail Art, and that is opening for registration on August 1st, 2021. So that's next week. The pieces that we're going to create four. I'm going to have four main lessons where we're going to create four different birds on four different U.S. male focused backgrounds. And then there's going to be four bonus lessons for you to do on your own time frame that are four different birds and four different U.S. male backgrounds. Now, I say your own time frame because from August 8th through October 3rd, there's going to be a virtual classroom that's open where you can upload your work and upload your comments, and I will evaluate and give feedback on everything that is uploaded on those four main lessons from August 8th to October 3rd. Then you've got four bonus lessons that are a self-study based on what you learn in the main lessons. So you're going to be creating 8 mixed media 10 by 10s, each one different with a different background focused on the U.S. male and a different bird. So this one is called my postage stamp background. And it's because I have a lot of color from the postage stamps. But you notice that I've got them around the edges, and I've created sort of a restful space in the middle for my bird with some envelopes that are canceled. And I have to carefully put those in the middle, and I have the stamps around the edges tucked under them. So I'm going to sort of give you a basic overview on how I create this postage stamp background that's used for this chickadee as a sneak peek into my workshop that is opening next week. Also, if you're not in the market or don't have the time for a full-length workshop from August to October, I'll also encourage you that some of these techniques in different ways are also covered in my Patreon page. Now, the lessons, the comprehensive lessons that include the whole workshop are not in the Patreon page, but there are lessons that cover unique backgrounds, collaging of birds, sketching, underpainting, and that they are in-depth tutorial lessons, and they're available on my Patreon page for your subscription. This is the time of the month to do it. You always want to sign up at the beginning of the month. Please don't sign up at the end of the month, because Patreon will charge you at the end of the month, and then they will charge you again at the beginning of the month, because they charge on the first of the month moving forward, regardless of when you sign up. So you want to wait till August 1st or shortly thereafter to sign up. Don't sign up at the end of July. So that's my tip for Patreon, $25 a month subscription for in-depth tutorials every single week. Or let's get a sneak peek into my upcoming online pre-recorded workshop, Mixed Media Airmail. Okay, so what I've already started doing, this one I created in the workshop, and it's not yet finished. I created this grunge edge, this sort of grunginess around the edge with a technique that I do on my gel plate. I added that on top of a basic ephemera background where I glued down an old postcard, some sheet music, a couple of stamps, an old playing card, something out of an almanac, and an addressed envelope, and I don't know what that is. That's some typewriter type. So now what I need to do is create that kind of smooth, restful space in the center for my bird or whatever other subject you might want to put on it. So I'm looking at this envelope. I'm also looking at this envelope. One thing I want to let you know about the envelopes is you can't glue them down. You have to take them apart. So you don't want to try and glue the whole envelope down, because what will happen is the glue adheres to the back. The front is not adhered to the back, and you'll get bubbling and wrinkling, and you definitely don't want that. So you want to open your envelope up. This one has the postage removed from it, but you would open it up and take it apart and use the pieces flat. Now, even this poses a problem where the flaps are glued together like this. It can pose a problem where they overlap. So a lot of the times I have to be very careful with that, or make sure it's very well adhered, or I'll open the envelope. It's just where they all come together here. So just make sure that this is all very well adhered before you glue it down. So I think I'm going to, I've also got other pieces of backs of envelopes where I've used the fronts, and these make great negative space things too. It's just a matter of fitting them together like a puzzle to sort of create that space in the middle. So I think I'm going to stick with this envelope, and this back could be interesting. I hate to cover up that. It's a wonderful address. So maybe I can give myself a little more room sort of here and down in this corner. So I do have the other back part of that blue envelope. I could put a little bit of it in there, maybe like this. This is where it gets to be sort of like a puzzle. So if I bring that over, maybe I could do a little bit like that. And just because that's not super important to cover. And I could put that like this, and maybe this will give me my center. So if we go with that, what we need to do first in creating this postage stamp background is put some colorful stamps around the corners and then put these negative space envelopes on top. So I've got a resource for they call it off paper stamps. And when you see that off paper, that means that they've all been steamed off the envelope, steamed or soaked. So there's no paper on the back. What it would look like if you got them with paper on the back, and sometimes they do come that way. Let me find this for you. Oh, where? Would be more like this. So you would get them with the parts of the envelope on them. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, but I do have a good resource for the steamed off paper. So for the resources for this project, please hop on over to my blog. That link is in the upper right-hand corner. The blog will have all the supply resources underneath in a nice visual setup with photos that you can click, which is really user-friendly. If you are interested in my Patreon page, learning more about that, click in the link in your upper right-hand corner to navigate to my Patreon portion of my website. And if you are interested in learning more about mixed media airmail art workshop, you can click in the upper right-hand corner and check it out on my website. But also, I would suggest that you click up there for the newsletter sign-up form and get on my mailing list. Because on my mailing list, not only will you get tutorial tidbits as a blog post emailed to you with that nice format for resources, but you'll also get the invitation to register, the link to register for the online workshop when it opens on the morning of August 1st. So lots of good stuff up there on my website. Okay, so now, what you can do is you can go for a couple of different ways to do this. You can choose random multicolor stamps that just give you a lot of wonderful color. You could choose, say we did a cardinal on here, you could choose stamps that were red and in the red family. So you could do sort of a monochromatic where you did all your stamps that in a color that matched the bird. That's one way to do it. So you could put all red out here and have a cardinal in the middle. Another way to do it is if you wanted to keep this neutral, like this nice oxidized neutral background, you could choose stamps that were neutral and you could put those out around the edge. So you could sort of go with a neutral color palette and have your stamps go along with that. So when you get a huge lot of stamps, you do have a lot of options, whether it's color random, color specific, or color neutral. Now, I like the bright color out here because we have so much neutral, but I don't mind mixing in a few neutral stamps either. So I'm just going to loosely choose. I'm going to choose some stamps here. Like I think this one would look really good down here. And I'm going to loosely place them, and then I'm going to know that I need to sort of bring in another row of them even further than what I placed, so my envelopes go right on top. So I don't have a bird in mind for this, so I certainly am not going to do a specific color. I also don't want to cover up all of my grungy background, so I don't need to go right out to the edges everywhere. I can go out to the edges in some places, and then I can leave that nice grunge edge in other places. So you want to consider that as well. Also, I like that type, so I don't necessarily want to cover all that up, but so we could do it like that there, and then we could come in more over here. This could be our place where we really kind of come in and tuck under although we're not tucking under that because it's already glued down, but so we can come over it. And I try not to use duplicates, the same one, and you want to look at them. This is honoring those who help fight polio. Sometimes there's things on these stamps that might be something you don't want on there. You know, have a look at that. Look at them for color and content, in other words. So this is kind of too bold and too blue for me. I'm not interested in that. I'm going for more of a vintage look. So I'll just go through here and choose my stamps and choose them according to color. I might like to put one of these stamps on there, but I think I'll do that at the end because those are self-adhesive. And since this is already glued down, I can come over it a little bit, sort of play with the in and out. And then I've got another one I can put down here. I'm going to go for some color now. The blue is nice. So those could go there. Don't be afraid to put them upside down, sideways. You can run them off the edge. You could do part of one and fold it and have it go off the edge. Visually interesting to have it do that. Let's see. This is kind of cool, but I don't want to cover up all that typewriter type, so maybe I'll put them there. Definitely putting a few upside down. Here's a postcard. It's already got one stamp on it, but I could always put another. I do like that addressed section though, so I might put stamp right here. And then I'm gonna have to get another stamp sort of. I'm gonna take this edge off of this one because that's taking up some space and it's not really all that interesting. Okay, so that'll go here. And then we're like that, and maybe I can put another one like this. So this gives me a little bit of a nice negative space in the middle for my bird. That's kind of busy right there. So I might take the end of this envelope and sort of put it in there. Or I could put this postage stamp in there, which is a little neutral because of the color. Either that one or this one. That's not too bad. It's a little less busy than that. Or I could do something like this. That's pretty good. That's pretty neutral. So I'll put that there to sort of make that a little bit of a neutral spot. And I'll put these sort of along here. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to also, I lost my playing card that was out here. And sometimes that happens. I could always, I do love that playing card. So this is where it just becomes like a puzzle and you just sort of have to move things around. So if I put this like that, that eliminates that thing right there. It brings me up with all three of these together, and then I could put this return address there. So if I put that there, that would be neutral. And then I wouldn't lose my playing card, and I could bring a couple more stamps in here. I've got a lot of pink in there. It tends to be one of my favorite colors. Here's a little teal. And then I've got my stamp. I already had some postage stamps here, but the grunge edge is over the top of them. So I think I'm going to add a little bit more color down in that corner. So let's try something yellow and something with a sheep on it. That's kind of cool. That's a Christmas stamp. I might not want that. Or I could just go over it this way. And let's see if we can find a different color than what we're using. So maybe a little teal. And here's a bright purple. Airmail, this is a good one. We got to figure out how to work in the airmail stamp for the airmail art project. So that'll go there. And let's see. That's pretty white, and it's Christmas. Not that Christmas is unusable, but it's pretty white. Banking? No. How about this guy? 3 cents. Harvey Wiley. God, that's small and hard to read. Let's see. Oh, this is kind of fun. Hope for the crippled. So this is the kind of thing I'm saying. Like, if you don't like this because it's called Hope for the Crippled, they also have one, I have found one in here that says retarded children can be helped. Those are politically incorrect terms that we don't use anymore, but the graphic is kind of cool, so you could always run it off the edge, or maybe it doesn't bother you because it's a vintage stamp. So just food for thought to think about your content of your stamp. So now I'm just going to carefully lift the envelope and lift the return address, and I'm going to set it aside in the same direction that I'm going to glue it down so I don't forget. And then I'm going to start adding my postage stamps. I'm going to use the same brush that I use for glue, and that's the Princeton Catalyst Filbert short handle number 8. I like this brush because the filbert shape does not leave any trails of glue along the sides. The rigid bristle, it's a very rigid, springy, bouncy bristle. That allows me some real good pressure to flatten out all the air bubbles because it's a rigid bristle. And I like the short handle because I keep it in my hand and I move and do things and I don't ever put it down. So, and then I'm using my collage glue. So the first one I'm going to put down is over here, and I'm just going to go through this and put these down with glue under and over every stamp. So I'm going to pull that right to the edge, or I could pull it in a little bit from the edge, or again, I could fold it over the edge, however you want to do it. This one is sideways, and I'm pressing out all the air bubbles and wiping off the extra glue. So I'm going to go around and glue these stamps down, and then we will move on to the next step. So now I'm just going around and applying pressure on the corners with my brush and with a little extra glue on top to make sure everything is down flat. Then I'm going to remember that I'm bringing this envelope back here so that it doesn't overlap the number 2 card, and that little piece of return address was going to go over here. But you know what? I kind of like it the way that it is there without that. So I don't feel like I need to do that. So I think I'm just going to use this envelope. So in the interest of not having wrinkles, I'm going to glue these back together, but I'm going to separate the flap from the top so that I have less surface area in one glue down. So I'm going to put a bunch of glue down, and I'm going to bring right up to my number 2. I'm going to slide it down so that I can see that address, and I'm overlapping the edge of my postage stamps. And now I'm adding a generous amount of glue on top and applying pressure with my rigid bristle brush to press out all the air bubbles. And this is important. This brush is the tool to get everything flat because it has a very springy, rigid bristle. So it becomes a good tool for flattening things. You do want to avoid rubbing in with your fingers because you need your fingers to pick up your stamps and tear your collage paper, and you're not any good if your fingers are covered with glue. So this is the tool. So now this is also an airmail envelope, which is super cool. And I'm pressing out the bubbles. And now I'm going to come over here and glue the flap, and I can glue it either in the right place, or I could even slide it down a bit. How about if it were slightly off center? That could be kind of cool. So I'm going to make sure I got plenty of glue there, and I'm going to bring my flap slightly down off center. That gives me more room on my postcard and overlaps my stamps more down here. And I'm adding more glue over the top and pressing out all the air bubbles. This is the same way that I create the background, only I use a larger version of this brush for these big pieces of paper. So I'm flattening out all the air bubbles. I'm giving it an extra coat of glue on top. And then I'm just going to wipe off excess glue that might be in lumps or blobs or too heavy. And now I've got a really nice, colorful background that I can build the bird on, like this one. So I'm going to let this dry, and then I'm going to come back and show you some wonderful rubber stamps that I have to make some unique cancellation marks. I'm going to add this somewhere, but right now I'm going to let this dry, and we will be right back. Now, while we're waiting for glue to dry, watching glue dry, I'm going to show you that in order to clean all of the glue out of your very nice glue brush, the best product to use is the Masters Brush Cleaner. Now, this is the studio tub size of the Masters Brush Cleaner, and you can tell that it is very worse for wear. This is about $20, I believe, and I have had it. It is filled to the top when you get it, and I have had this for at least 4 years. So a $20, $25 investment for 4 years of cleaning brushes is not a bad deal. So what's in it is basically like a soap cake. So when you buy it, the whole thing is filled with it, but it's a soap. So you take your brush, and I've dipped this in water, and you get it onto the soap, and then you've got basically a soap that you're going to work through all the bristles. You're going to scrub them in your hand like this, and you're going to work them through, use your thumbs and get it all in there. And this will get all of the glue out of your glue brush so that you can keep your brush nice and working well for a long time. Now, it's not just about glue. This will also take out gesso, paint, varnish, anything. And it will really, it also conditions the bristles. So you can leave this product in the brush like that. You don't have to rinse it out. You can leave it like that. And what it'll do is you can pull your bristle head back to a tip and reshape your brush and leave it with the soap in it, and it'll hold it reshaped. Then when you get ready to paint again, you just rinse this out and start painting. But so this is a cleaner and conditioner. It's the only thing I recommend to clean the brushes. So I do a lot of this and squishing it all through, and then we just rinse it. And that's the Masters Brush Cleaner. And I obviously need to order a new tub, and the tub is the way to go. They have a soap bar, they have a small cake, but the per ounce price on the tub is the way to go. It'll last you years. So the next step in this process of making this look like an authentic Postage background is adding some cancellation marks to the stamps that may not be canceled, although several of them are, and adding some postmarks and some iconic graphics of the U.S. mail. So I had made for me, specifically for this workshop with Rubber Moon, a set of 6 postage mark rubber stamps. They are vulcanized red rubber stamps, so they have extremely fine line detail. They're capturing the cancellation marks and some really beautiful fine line detail. So they're available exclusively on my website, and that link is in the upper right-hand corner. They are not available through Rubber Moon, and they were designed by me and KP Powers for this workshop, which is super cool. So I've got 2 different ink pads. I've got the Ranger Archival ink. It's acid-free, permanent, and waterproof, and that's important. I've got it in sepia, and I've also got it in black. So if you want to go for subtle postmarks, you can do them in sepia, since a lot of this is sort of off-white, gold, and brown tones. But if you wanted it to be bold, you could go with black, or we could do a combination. I tend to like the sepia, but if it doesn't show up with all we've got going on, we could switch gears. So I've got 2 circular indicias. One is from New York and one is from Massachusetts. And I love the Massachusetts one because that's where I'm from. And so I'm going to put that one right over in here. So I'm just going to press it into the ink pad and then press it. And there is your Buzzards Bay, August 8th. How cool is that? That is the first week of this workshop. It's 1988, which was a good year, but August 8th is the first day of this workshop. How perfect. These serendipitous things are wonderful, aren't they? So the other one is New York. So I'm going to use the black. I'm going to use both pads. So I'm going to do the New York. This is the New York City one. That's where my daughter lives, and I am headed there in a couple of days. So I'm going to put that one sort of down over, I'm going to put it right over the playing card so that we can sort of incorporate that into the whole postage theme. So there is my New York, December 23rd, 7 p.m., 1904. There it is. Aren't these wonderful? They are authentic cancellation marks, and they really work nicely over the stamps and over the backgrounds. So the next one is a great little airmail stamp. So I'm going to do that one in sepia. And I'm going to put that one, I think, right in here with that type. So I'm going to rotate this here and put my airmail stamp. That's one that KP designed the little bird specifically for me. I love that. And then I've got another airmail that's a little bit more solid, and I'm not going to use that because I'm going to use one of these stickers. So I'm going to, I've used that in other ones. And then I've got my cancellation marks. So here I'm going to use those I'm going to look and see if I've got stamps that aren't canceled that maybe could benefit from the cancellation mark. So this one is not canceled. So I'm going to, and you don't have to use the whole thing. Watch while it's nice because it's flexible rubber. So I'm going to use the end of it, and then I'm going to come just 2/3 of the way, and I'm not going to push down the other end. So it ended right there. I didn't use the full length of it. Okay. That's really what's nice about them being unmounted and flexible, is that you can just use part of it. And then I'm going to grab that, and I'm going to put a cancellation on these stamps right here. So these are just, you know, adding a level of authenticity to everything being canceled and having the postal background. Now, you can usually stamp it a second time and you'll get a lighter impression. Like if I stamp it again before the ink dries, let's see if that works. Yeah, and then you can get a secondary sort of lighter impression. And it looks a little more worn and old. If you stamp it, you can stamp it off on a plain piece of paper, and then maybe even you want to do it twice on a plain piece of paper and put the third print here, which will be very light and eviscerated. So you can sort of play around with the ink density from the ink pad on here. So let's see. I'm going to go back to the Buzzards Bay stamp, and I'm going to do it in black this time. Last time I did it in sepia. And I'm going to put that sort of over here. I'm going to angle it at a different angle than the New York and put them both together on the card here. So I've got them angled. You can overlap them. You could just do half of it, like I said, with the stamps or with the cancellation marks. You could definitely do this and have it hang over the edge and just do one little corner of it. So you can play around with these. They're wonderful. They have great fine line detail. And last but not least, I know we do have a postcard on here, but this is a beautiful Art Nouveau postcard type. So I'm going to put that on the sepia. And I think I'm just going to put it right below this postcard. I know it'll be redundant, but I just want to show it to you. So it's going to go right under here. And I'm doing it in sepia. And it's just got beautiful fine line vintage Art Nouveau postcard. So that is the stamp set of the 6 stamps designed specifically for this workshop, but also available to you if you are not taking the workshop on my website. And that link is in your upper right-hand corner. So let's see. Let's put a first class mail sticker on here and then call it done. So where do I want to put that? Where do I want to put that? Maybe right there. Maybe right there. So there you go. So now I have a great mixed media postage stamp background, and I will then add a bird to it. Now in this workshop, we are also finishing the backs of these pieces. We are finishing the backs with this cool technique. So the back looks super fun and unique. And I'm going to show you how to do that. And then I'm also going to show you how to create a handmade envelope out of an atlas page or out of a lot of other unique techniques. So we're going to make some unique handmade envelopes, either handmade, this is totally cut out of an atlas page, or embellishing existing envelopes. And then I've got a wonderful poem by Ralph Waldo Emerson about the chickadee on a great antiqued piece of paper that I am folding up and putting in the envelope on the back of the chickadee mixed media airmail art painting. So I hope you'll consider joining me for the workshop. Check out the blog for all the information. And I look forward to seeing you online. Happy Friday, and thank you for being here.